One of the hardest things to understand intellectually is the idea of agendalessness, having no agenda. This isn't just hard to understand from an intellectual point of view, it's actually impossible. We can't help thinking about this business of being agendaless without imagining that we must have some sort of agenda for being agendaless. We automatically go looking for the agenda and think, that's a neat angle. The angle of having no angle is a very neat angle. That's very clever indeed. And that's lifted straight out of a Bill Hicks joke. So I won't go into the joke, but that's basically it. It's as if we just can't get the idea of having no angle because we think that having no angle is a very sophisticated type of angle. And that is the reason I'm going on about this, is because this is the exact problem we have with meditation. Meditation is all about having no angle, having no agenda. And yet there's all this commotion to press meditation or mindfulness into the service of our agendas. And we're sublimely unaware of the irony here. We've got our serious faces on, our very serious faces. It's like, this is a good angle face. This is a good angle. And I'm going to work away at it, and we're all going to work away at it, and this is great. We're just going to get on board with it. That's how we are. And in that seriousness, there isn't any hint of irony. And the lack of any hint of irony is the same thing as the lack of any hint of consciousness, because consciousness isn't just ironic, it is irony, because no propositions can ever be recognized as being true in consciousness. We just have to laugh. And if we're not laughing, if we've got our serious faces on, that's just because we're not conscious, because we're dumb. I don't mean dumb in a kind of pejorative way. I just mean that we're dumb in a technical way. We really are very dumb because we don't get it. So it's dumb in that particular way. We don't get the irony. We don't get the joke. And because we don't get the joke is on us, which is always the way. So with mindfulness, it very often is the way that this is a case of the right means in the hands of the wrong man, as Jung says, even though he's not specifically talking about meditation. And the reason it's in the hands of the wrong man, as I was saying, as I've been leading up to, is because the man it's in the hands of is very much a man with an agenda, a big agenda. And if you've got any sort of agenda at all, then you've missed the point, because what you really care about is your agenda, not the means by which your agenda, my agenda, our agenda can be supposedly realized. The means is secondary. So what we want is the important thing. And because we want it so badly, we'll try any means. And if someone comes along and says, here is a means that is effective and scientifically proven with evidence of a scientifically evidence-based nature, which we love to hear that very much indeed. That really does it for us. And then we go, yeah, cool. We love to hear that, because it kind of means that the means is going to work for us, which means that the angle in question is a good angle, which means that we're going to get our agenda fulfilled. And that is the ultimate thing we care about. We care about getting our agenda fulfilled, which is a state of non-ironicism, if there is such a word, which there isn't. That is the supremely non-ironic posture to take, the posture of wanting what we want seriously, thinking it's a good thing, we want to get it, and that it's possible for us to get what we want, to realize our goal. And in everyday life, that's reasonable, that's okay. That's fine, but we're not talking about everyday life. Like if I want a bucket of water, I go and get a bucket of water, and that's fine. That's not a clownish act. I'm not manifesting my unconsciousness by wanting to get a bucket of water or whatever it is. But we're talking psychologically. We're talking about the field of mental health. We're talking about mental health care. So in this field, all this goal-orientated stuff is preposterous in the extreme. It's humorless and preposterous because it's all about agendas. So what we can't understand is this thing about not wanting stuff or having an idea about stuff. And what that comes down to is doing things with no view to a profit, doing things without a view to the outcome. And we might say, well, why would anyone do that? It's a damnably stupid thing to do. What kind of an idiot would do that? So we could say that. But then what we're not getting, if we do say that, is that in order to have an eye on the outcome, an eye on the prize, an eye on the goal, what that shows is that we're projecting our mental framework ahead of us wherever we go. I'm projecting my mind, my thoughts ahead of me wherever I want to go. So if I have a good idea about where I want to go or what I want to attain, that's my idea. That is my idea. So within the general run of things, that's perfectly okay. But when we're talking in terms of mental health, that ain't going to work, because what mental health always comes down to is moving in the direction of becoming free from our ideas about the world and our ideas about ourselves. So it's about becoming free from thought. And that's healthy, because only when we become free from thought can we see what's actually going on, rather than seeing what our mind tells us is going on. So if I'm interested in waking up in this way and in moving out of the pointless self-defeating misery of the mind moderated existence, and that's not to say we should never think, it's just to say that we don't want mind to be running everything and telling me who I am and what the world is and what life is about and what I should be doing. We want mind in its place, the thinking, the faculty to be doing its job properly. Like if it's a carrot peeler, we want it to be peeling carrots, and that's all. We don't want it spilling over into every aspect of life, which it does, like the magic porridge pot story tells us. It spills over and swamps everything. It should be staying within its compartment, but it doesn't. And that's because we turned it on, but we can't turn it off. So the only thing that helps is to move in the direction of becoming free from our thoughts, or becoming not controlled by our thoughts, or determined or defined by our thoughts. So that's good stuff if we can do that. Now, very obviously, by having an idea of an outcome, if I say, well, that's a good outcome, being free from the shackles of thought is a good outcome. So I'm aiming at that outcome. That's the goal. Then straight away, I've made a fool of myself, of course, because I'm moving into thought. I'm reinforcing thought. I'm making thought more powerful than ever, because thought is now going to help me to become free from thought. So when we say that mindfulness or meditation is all about resting in that state of mind where we have no agenda, then that's what we mean. We don't mean that meditation or mindfulness or whatever it is there to serve my agenda. And this is a lot more perplexing. Like, that is easier to say, and we can say, yes, have no agenda. I'm going to have no agenda. But what I'm trying to get at is, as soon as I say that, I've got an agenda for saying that. I'm thinking it's going to be a good thing to have no agenda. Therefore, I want to have no agenda. Therefore, I'm thinking about having no agenda, which is like thinking about not thinking. Not thinking seems great. The tedious, rotten old thoughts that keep on repeating through my mind, making their claim on my consciousness, so I don't have time to notice anything else. Wouldn't it be good to be free from that? And I think about how great it would be to be free from that. And it's like, yeah, that would be amazing. But that's just another construct of thought. It's a new flavor of thought. The flavor of thought entertaining itself with the idea of being free from itself, which isn't really ever going to develop into anything that isn't thought. And the difficulty that I'm talking about, what it comes down to is, so if I'm sitting here and I want to be agendaless, the very fact that I want to means that I never can be. And so what we're dealing with here is a pretty fundamental obstacle. And instead of talking about mindfulness, we could also look at this in terms of compassion. So compassion-focused therapy is a big thing, or it's a thing, and it sounds good, and compassion is good, and compassion is much better than judging ourselves and telling ourselves that we're useless and rotten or stupid or whatever else. And it helps to be compassionate, helps rather than kicking yourself up the arse, because that doesn't help anything apart from making you feel worse. So you're kicking yourself up the arse for feeling bad, and that makes you feel worse. So then you have to kick yourself up the arse even more, because that's the logic of it. So that's just a tight circle which goes to a place which is not a very nice place to go to. So compassion's a nice thing, it's a good thing. But we run into the same problem, that compassion can be the right means in the hands of the wrong man. If I'm trying to use compassion. So this seems baffling in a way, because I've just said that compassion is great and it's good and it helps and it's much better than kicking yourself up the arse. But at the same time, there's an elusive quality to it in that I can't be compassionate because I want to, or because it's a good idea to, or because it would help me to, or because other people have told me that this is the exercise for today. Go away and be compassionate to yourself the next time you do something stupid, or the next time you get caught in whatever behaviour it is you're always getting caught in. And we always are, and that's true for all of us. We're always getting caught in behaviours. remember, be compassionate to yourself. And although in principle that's a great thing, and it's good to know it, it's good to know that there is a thing called compassion. It's good to know that when we are compassionate, that makes things, that frees us up enormously. We don't get stuck in stuff. But when it comes to it, I can't be compassionate just like that, just by pressing a button. And I can't train myself, even though training is a word we love, because training means control. Control means I get what I want to happen. I get to fulfill my agenda. So we love training, we love methods, we love control, we love all of that, because it's all about getting our agendas met. But this is a different ball game. It's a totally different ball game. It's got nothing to do with getting our agendas met. Compassion can't be used in the service of getting our agendas met. So it could happen that I could sit there and I could remember, oh yeah, compassion. And if I have had, if I have practiced at doing that in the past enough, it can come back to me. But it does that through a certain lightness of touch that doesn't involve any agendas. And that's the thing we don't understand, because we don't really understand this lightness of touch, because the lightness of touch isn't anything to do with what I want, or it's nothing to do with the self expressing its will, its wishes, because everything that the self wants or expresses is really just thought, because the self is just thought. So it can't come from that place. It can't come from the place of thought or the place of who I think I am. So if I'm very trapped in that place of being who I think I am, which is fair enough to say that most of us are, that's the way of things, and that's our starting off point, so that's okay. We can't develop this trick of being compassionate. It's not going to happen in that way. Something else needs to happen first. What needs to happen first is that it is a disidentification from the mind-created self, so that we stop being so damn serious about our agendas the whole time. We become, to a degree, ironic, which isn't something you can do on purpose, obviously, any more than you can be funny on purpose, or see, you can tell jokes on purpose, but you can't get the joke, or you can't experience humor on purpose, because humor is humor, because it's freedom from purpose, or from our seriousness, if you want to put it like that. So then this really is, and I'm starting to wander off the topic a little bit, but this really is important, because so many people, when they go on a course on compassion focused therapy, say the same thing afterwards, which is, yes, but I just can't be compassionate to myself. That's what they don't understand. I just can't. And of course, the conditioned identity, the mind-created self, hasn't an ounce of compassion in it. It has no compassion whatsoever. It's not built that way. It's a machine. It doesn't have compassion. And so, in as much as we are identified with that self, which we are, as I was saying, compassion isn't going to happen like that. So instead of wanting to change things and to be a way that we're not, which is compassionate, when we're not compassionate, we do something else, which is actually workable, because that isn't workable. If I'm not compassionate, I cannot make myself be compassionate. And more to the point, if I try to make myself be compassionate, that's not a very compassionate thing to do. I'm essentially saying that the way I am is crap, and I'm rejecting it, and I'm trying to be a different way, which is always a problem in all therapy, because all therapy is about changing, supposedly. Well, obviously it is. What else would it be about? But when we try to change ourselves, that's an act of non-compassion. It's an act of rejection. It's an act of not wanting to. It's an act of wanting to be somewhere else. It's self-rejection. And that doesn't bring about change. When I reject myself, that doesn't get rid of myself. It just makes me be a self-rejecting or self-judging or self-hating self. That's a worse hole that I've just dug myself there. So being compassionate in this case doesn't mean being compassionate and transforming into a lovely, compassionate person. What it means is not trying to change yourself from being non-compassionate, because that's a compassionate thing to do. Because to try and get something to happen that isn't going to happen, that's only going to make you feel bad, which happens every time we try and change ourselves, is not a non-compassionate thing. It's just it's not going to work, and then we're going to feel like idiots because it doesn't work, because we're going to think it's our fault that it doesn't work. So that's a very well-known sequence of events. And if you talk to anyone that's been on any structured therapy course, this is a very common refrain. I'm just not able to do it. I must be really hopeless, etc., etc., etc. So true compassion in this instance is refraining from trying to make yourself be compassionate. In other words, living with yourself as you are, as a non-compassionate person. And to be able to do this, it places a requirement on us that we become bigger people than we were beforehand. So I'm not down on myself. I'm actually allowing myself to be exactly as I am, which is an act not just of compassion, but it's an act of wisdom. It's an act of wisdom because what else can I do?